Hello and welcome to the show. Question: what do a department store owner and a scientist have in common? This week on Thinking Forward we'll find out. I met with Stuart Keevan at his store in Pukekohe.
My working life, I've been involved in running a family department store. This year is my 51st year.
Several years ago, Stuart was in Japan sourcing potential product for his department store. He brought back a new technology, an electric domestic composter that converted food waste into fertiliser.
The machine we bought from Japan was basically like a version of a bread maker. It had just revolving paddles in it, put the waste in, you put a certain amount of the bacteria in, and it had a preheating system on it to hurry the program through. But it was typical of Japanese. They had it looking very highly technical. There was microprocessors and that all over it. We thought we could make something a lot more simple than that and probably more efficient.
The idea was there. They had a prototype. Now Stuart needed a scientist.
Did a science degree at Massey and majoring in biochemistry, and then got involved in the food industry, meat industry in particular. Then after a few years in that industry, I went through came up to Auckland in fact, and got involved with the fast moving consumer goods industry. I was there for a while, then other primary processing, and then I was involved in a lot of technical development all the way through, and been acting as a consultant for the last 12 years or so. I met Stuart in a situation which is rather strange, in as much as it was a venture that I looked at getting involved with in terms of importing, and went to visit Stuart just out of the blue, cold call, and to see if he was interested in buying some of the products we were looking at bringing in. And in the discussion he mentioned this process that they had been working on for some years, that he thought would be great for New Zealand, in as much as it was had the potential for diverting a lot of food waste and organic waste away from landfill, and that was what was driving his venture, or side of the venture. And he told me of this machine that they had brought in from Japan, a small trial machine, and that they had spent some years trying to scale the whole process up, but really hadn't made any real progress. And at that stage he didn't really know that I had a background in technology development and so forth, and I was rather excited by the notion, the whole concept of bacteria converting food waste very quickly into a dry fertiliser that at that stage I didn't know how good it was, but I said I'll have a look, think about it and see what I come up with. Anyhow, a short time later I came up with what I thought would be the best way to do it, and Stuart agreed that we should have a look at it, so we set up some pilot plant, did some trials and proved it basically. We built a small machine to put down at Lake Waikare, where they were capturing a large number of koi carp, which are a nuisance species that are invading the Waikato River system. So we put a small machine in there for the Waikato Regional Council, and that was adjacent to a trap that they had put in, and that's been there about 3 years now. And that worked very, very well, but spasmodic in as much as the carp only run when there's water flowing, and there's not been a lot of rain for the last couple of summers, so not as many carp as we'd have liked. So that was the first commercial machine, but the installation that that we have been commissioning over in West Auckland, that is the first of the scale that employs our full technology. It's multi-stage, and really that's the first what you would regard as commercial machine. The one at Lake Waikare was a small version, and it was only single stage, but the demand wasn't big enough to put a full-blown 3-stage machine in there.
Can you tell us a bit about the concrete mixer?
The concrete mixer, we had two in fact. In order to scale up from the original experimental plant that I put together and improve the system, we wanted to prove it on a larger scale. In a sense, the process works better in large scale, and we were able to make it work on a small scale. It was rather gratifying, but we needed to still produce on a larger scale. So the quickest way and easiest way was to obtain some concrete mixer bowls that had been on the back of concrete trucks, make a base for them, drive them differently, configure them quite differently so they can work as a digester or as digesters.
Well, after years of trials, experimenting with construction, different food waste and bacteria, the team finally have a full-size working model.
Well, Sarah, this is what the concrete mixer has evolved into. This is the sharp end of a 17.5 tonne capacity digestion system, and this is the first stage of 3. All of the food is augured into the first stage, and then over a period of time it's transferred into the second and the third stage. So there is food inside there digesting away.
So the 3 stages are all within the same machine?
That's right, they're just connected. We'll show you the connection.
Fantastic.
And so all you can see here is a rotating drum, but inside there's all sorts of bugs working and all sorts of things happening.
Okay.
So we'll go around and
Follow you.
And this is the side of the first digester. It's just over 2 metres in diameter and 4.5 metres long, this first digester. So it's quietly rotating all day, every day. Inside here, there's a auger system that transfers from the first stage to the second stage. We can add additional material in this here if we wish to, for whatever reason. And then behind this section there's another digester, very similar but slightly smaller.
Okay.
And by the time it gets to the third digester, it's almost dry and it's almost completely digested. Yeah, so this is the final stage where the material is completely digested and dehydrated, and it comes through a very simple screen and augured into, at the moment, into a wheelie bin, but it can be augured into bigger bags or whatever they want to do with it. So,
So that's the fertiliser coming through?
The finished product coming out. And that was
Food waste,
yucky
5
food.
days ago.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Well, obviously the team at Biocosmo need a tie-in with at least one ongoing food waste provider. We'll find out about that soon and why the future's looking great. But coming up next, what have the experts got to say? This week we're hearing from Craig Armstrong, New Zealand Trade and Enterprise. Craig, is Biocosmo's innovation unique?
Biocosmo is a very unique firm, and I think that we would say that most firms want to be seen as unique. However, it's also typical of many firms that we work with in terms of having a unique product that we know that there is both a demand and a channel to market for that organisation. We work with a number of different businesses at the moment that have similar technology and are selling to a same type of customer internationally. So Biocosmo really should be calling us in and saying what can we do for them, because we know that we have the people internationally that have buyers and a market that is willing to take this type of unique New Zealand technology and ultimately provide a great return for them.
So how would you work with them if you got the opportunity to do so?
I think one of the unique things that New Zealand Trade Enterprise is able to offer to a business like Biocosmo is that we are different, if you like, in that we're able to bring the government imprimatur to an equation. We're able to think and act and be a part of the private sector, but we have the government mandate behind us, which in many instances gives foreign countries, foreign buyers and a foreign market some degree of comfort in that there's an independent organisation representing the capability and the integrity of this product. We know that there are some very large municipal institutions globally that have been mandated by their own governments, whether local or federal, to reduce waste or find more sustainable solutions. And the technology that Biocosmo has a natural home in many of those channels, whether they're large schools, whether they're hospitals, whether they're federal institutions like the defence industry that have been told to find a more environmentally friendly and a cleaner way to treat and look after such a product as food waste. In some ways it's really interesting because what you're doing is monetising waste streams. So there's a lot of potential for it. I think the second thing I'd say in that is that in some jurisdictions, and Australia is a very typical one for us, is that we offer a tender watch service. And that tender watch service enables firms like Biocosmo to be aware of tenders as they're coming to market long before the ad hits a paper or it becomes public. And in some ways you're able to shape the nature of that tender because you're in early engagement with the procurement or the supply chain officials in the client organisation. So that tender watch service enables firms to get a very early warning or an early recognition of opportunity as it comes up and is able to position themselves to take advantage of that when it does come out.
Based on what's happening overseas, what do you think the future is for companies like Biocosmo?
Well, I think that's a very interesting question, Sarah. I think that one of the key things that we can do is look keenly at what happens overseas and ask whether that is relevant and going to be adopted by New Zealand. Can I answer it in two ways? I think that for firms like Biocosmo, what we can do is help them follow the money. And if there's one thing that nearly guarantees success for many different people, it's the ability to be able to find out where federal, state, local governments and multinationals want to spend money and invest in technology. And in a lot of instances, the key thing for us is to be able to understand the flows of that money and to be able to take a willing seller to that market. It's quite a simple formula. It's quite difficult to find the money. I think the reverse and the second part to that question is to try to anticipate and guess what New Zealand might do in response to what are some quite leading market trends and factors by some very environmentally aware, some very sustainable cities globally. I think no doubt that landfill is an issue no matter where you go in the world, and all sorts of different councils and regulatory bodies are trying to find a solution to it. I think that recycling and curbside collection and even household treatment of their own waste is becoming a more pertinent issue. And in that regard, I think that we're going to see a much greater demand for this type of technology, whether it's at a municipal and local government level, or whether it's by households and concerned consumers starting to generate their own community of concern and voice of support for the type of technology.
Excellent, thank you, Craig. Stuart and Terry have found their sweet spot, an endless supply of food waste to feed their machine and a potential market for the resulting fertiliser. Scott Brown is the co-owner of the HIP Group, which runs several eateries in the wider Auckland area.
We found out about Biocosmo through Stuart Keevan, who's an old connection that we've known for years, and he's been very passionate about the project for years, and it's great to finally see the project come to fruition and be great to be involved in it. We believe in HIP Group that we need to look after the land, we need to recycle everything as much as possible. We can't bring ourselves to put food waste into landfill in Auckland City, so we need to find an alternative use for that food waste. And we do go through quite a bit of food waste, so Stuart's system was the logical answer for us.
The food waste from HIP Group's 14 eateries alone is close to 4,000 litres per week. And with around 6,000 eateries in the greater Auckland area, the amount of food waste is just over a staggering 3 million litres a year. Currently the bulk of it goes into landfill, but with local councils looking at increasing their landfill charges, the business incentive to find new ways to process food waste is becoming very attractive.
Rubbish Direct is a business that operates us essentially from a number of different aspects in the waste industry. We provide commercial rubbish collection services, recycling collection services. Our customers indicated a desire to want to do something other than with food waste other than just putting it in a hole in the ground, which has really been the driving force behind our business right from the word go. So when we started to look for solutions to that problem, that was when Biocosmo really popped up on the radar as being a solution. And of course it has the added benefit of also having an output that adds value as well in terms of a soil conditioner, a fertiliser, something that can actually add back to the ground as well.
Can you tell us more about the Auckland Council's plans for recycling?
Well, Auckland Council have got a plan to go to a 3-stream collection system, which will include the collection of organics or food waste as one of those streams. They're making progress towards kicking that off certainly in certain areas by July this year. And we've been actively working with apartment buildings that we service to provide trials for food waste collections in those apartment buildings and really get the model and the process refined.
When we made this program, we asked Auckland Council about their plans, but they declined to comment, saying, "The council is in a commercially sensitive and confidential process and is not currently in a position to discuss the planned organic collection service." So we decided to do our own number crunching based on figures from the council's own website. Each Aucklander sends 160 kilograms of rubbish to landfill every year. Of the 65% of that, which can be recycled or put to better use, 40% is food waste. That's 64 kilograms of food waste per person a year, meaning a staggering 93 million kilograms of food waste into Auckland landfills each year. And added to that is 3 million litres of food waste from Auckland eateries that we mentioned earlier in the program. Obviously, it's not just the commercial imperative at play here.
It's not just the environment that would benefit. Cutting down on rubbish can also save money. That's why Auckland Council is introducing a new Auckland-wide organics collection. But first, we're trialling it in 2,000 homes. We want your feedback to help refine exactly how the new collection will work. Using your new organics collection is easy. The kitchen caddy is a convenient place to collect your food waste. It's important that you put the right stuff in your organics bin. So what can go in? Basically anything that's edible or discarded during food preparation, like vegetable and fruit scraps, meal leftovers, meat scraps and bones. You can also include paper towels, coffee grounds, tea bags and indoor cut flowers. Just make sure you remove any packaging before adding. So what can't go in? Garden waste can't, but it can be composted or collected by a garden waste company instead. It's also important that you don't include plastic bags, food wrap, nappies or pet waste. These things need to go into your rubbish bin. For a full list, refer to your brochure or this handy bin sticker.
We applied for a patent a few years ago now in New Zealand and a number of other countries. The patent was issued quite quickly here. We've had that now for a couple of years. The patent application in Australia was also successful. That we received notification in December that they had accepted that. And we're in the final stages of the patent being accepted in China and United States. We think we've overcome the last few hurdles because the examiners keep finding other patents that they think that ours is similar to. In reality, they're quite different. But we have to go through all the rigmarole to explain to them that ours is very different from these other patents in a number of significant areas. So we're optimistic that middle of this year we should have patents in China and the United States as well. Too expensive to go patenting everywhere. but we've got 4 other countries we feel that should be sufficient.
And then how do you see the future of Biocosmo playing out?
That is quite dependent on the approach that's taken. Like, for example, if we had endless supply of money, we could develop the whole business very, very quickly and expand globally quite quickly. We don't have truckloads of money, so we have to grow organically at the moment. As much as the investors are prepared to, or current shareholders are prepared to put in, it really dictates our rate of growth. But ideally, I think we need to get alongside either a multinational or a larger company that's got all of the resources to really capitalise on the benefits that we can put forward.
Terry and Stuart sure are continuing the grand New Zealand tradition of number 8 wire, imagination and invention. Join us next week when we visit a honey business that's really hitting its sweet spot.